how one animal has found a home in the unlikeliest of places, Chernobyl. Hello again, and welcome to lesson number 263 of Plain English. I'm Jeff. JR is the producer, and you can find this full lesson at plainenglish.com/263. Coming up today, the land surrounding Chernobyl in modern-day Ukraine, the site of the deadliest nuclear accident in history, is home to the last truly wild horse species, and they're thriving there. The expression today is fend for yourself, and we have a song of the week. Quick housekeeping note before we start. If you visit the website this weekend, you might find that it's down for maintenance. As you know, we are getting ready to transition to a new website on Monday, so there might be a little interruption while we get everything ready this weekend. So if you find that the site is down, don't panic, don't worry, just check back in a few hours. The worst nuclear accident of all time happened in 1986 when a reactor inside a nuclear power plant exploded in Ukraine, then part of the Soviet Union. The location, Chernobyl, will forever be associated with the terrible damage that modern science can inflict on the world if not properly controlled. The accident permanently scarred part of the Earth in a way that no other man-made event ever has. After the accident, over 100,000 residents of the immediate area had to permanently leave their homes due to radiation from the explosion. Scientists believed that the land surrounding Chernobyl would be uninhabitable for 20,000 years. A land area extending 30 miles in each direction from the plant has been designated an exclusion zone where nobody is allowed to live. A small number of workers still commute into the area to decommission the plant. The area has otherwise been turned back over to nature. That's where it gets interesting. This area so badly damaged by humans has been reclaimed by forest and wildlife. The so-called red forest has become a popular stomping grounds and safe haven for many animals, and it has helped revive one species in particular from near extinction, and that would be the only surviving subspecies of wild horse called the Przewalski's horse, named after the Russian explorer Nikolai Przewalski. What is a wild horse, anyway? Now, at first, I thought a wild horse was just a horse that roams freely in the wild. It turns out that that's not the case. Humans began domesticating horses in the year 4000 BC, and almost all horses on Earth today are descendants of those domesticated horses, even if they are now running wild. There are tens of thousands of horses that roam freely in the wild, but Kowalski's horses are nature's only connection to horses that have never been domesticated. They are the last truly wild horses. That's why scientists are trying to protect them as best they can. Kowalski's horses also look a bit different than most domesticated horses. They have a stocky build with shorter legs and shorter hair on their tails. They also have 2 more chromosomes than other horse species. Overgrazing and poaching caused the decline of the wild Kowalski's horses. By the 1950s, only 12 remained in European zoos, and the last wild horse outside captivity was seen in the Gobi Desert in 1969. Conservationists began a captive breeding program for the remaining horses as a last-ditch effort to save the species. In a captive breeding program, scientists breed endangered species in zoos in order to rebuild the population. Once enough new animals have been born, they can carefully be reintroduced into the wild. In 1998, a team of scientists saw a golden opportunity, and they introduced 31 Kowalski's horses into the Chernobyl exclusion zone, which is the 4,700 square kilometer area surrounding the site of the disaster. The area provided a unique test tube environment to reintroduce the horses to the wild, a place free from human civilization, but potentially at the cost of exposure to high levels of harmful radiation. The original horses were transported from nature reserves and zoos. Up until that point, they had lived their whole lives with human help and protection. They had never had to fend for themselves in the wild. As expected, many horses died during the transfer and release process, but the surviving population was still able to grow. Motion sensing cameras show that the horses have taken advantage of their new surroundings. They are using abandoned structures like barns as shelters. Without humans around, all the abandoned man-made structures are fair game for wildlife to use. They're coming in handy for scientists, too. Scientists put cameras inside the structures to keep tabs on the horse's vital stats like age, sex ratio, population size, and genetic structure. The most recent count in 2018 showed that the population had grown to 150, and there are many more in other parts of Europe and Asia too. Kowalski's horses aren't the only creatures thriving in the Chernobyl exclusion zone. Growing populations of moose, deer, beaver, owl, bear, and wolf all roam the famous Red Forest alongside the horses. We're getting close. Monday is the release of the new website, so I have just one last message for you before it goes live, and that is about the membership types you will find on the new website. So first up, we are going to be introducing a free membership tier on the website. So if you sign up for a free membership, you'll get access to the lesson libraries, which will help you explore our whole 260 plus lesson history. You will also have access to courses and challenges. This is a new feature. We will start you off with a special writing challenge, and we'll add a new course or challenge every few months. You'll also get access to a special homepage with all the latest lessons on it, and we will have a number of free webinars like web classes just for free members. So that is the free membership, and it will always be free. So next up, we have a new membership tier called the Starter Membership. Now, the big highlight of the Starter Membership is going to be the translations in our transcripts. For those of you who don't know, our transcripts online on plainenglish.com include translations of about 100 words and phrases from each lesson into 7 languages. And they're so great because you can just hover your mouse over these words as you read, and it shows you the translation right away. And that is our most popular feature. Now, right now, it's included in Plain English Plus, but we're creating a new, lower-priced membership that includes these translations and 5 flashcards in each lesson. This is a great membership if you're just building your vocabulary, and it's going to be just $7 per month. I really wanted to find a way to offer our most popular feature at a lower price, so you can get our famous translations at the lower price of just $7 per month with the Starter Membership. And then, of course, we have Plain English Plus, which will include the translations, of course, but also the video lessons, the fast version of the audio lessons, the online forums I told you about before, a video call twice a month, and all the new exercises. So the new exercises, remember, are the voice recording, listening test, fill in the blank exercise, and the lesson quiz. So it's a little something for everyone. There's definitely going to be more content at the free level, including a new free Facebook group. And we're bringing our most popular feature, the translations, into a lower priced membership tier. And we're adding a bunch of features to Plain English Plus. And this is all to celebrate the great success we've had here at Plain English over the last few years. So thank you very, very much for all the support you've given us, which makes this all possible. Today's expression is to fend for yourself, and this is another expression that includes a word that is not used outside the expression. You almost never say fend in any other context, but to fend for yourself means to meet your needs by yourself. Here's how you heard it earlier. Sawalski's horses were almost extinct before conservationists began a captive breeding program. In a captive breeding program, a small number of surviving members of a species are brought into a zoo and they are bred, meaning that scientists oversee the mating process and hopefully the birth of new members of the species. After enough time goes by and after the population grows, scientists can then begin thinking about releasing some of the animals back into the wild. And that is what they did with Kowalski's horses. But it's always a bit of a gamble, right? It's one thing to survive in captivity with a human providing food and possibly shelter and with no predators nearby. It's another for the animals to have to survive in the wild with no protection or assistance from humans. When they get into the wild, they have to fend for themselves. They have to meet their own needs without assistance. You might reasonably ask, will they be able to fend for themselves? Will they be able to ward off predators? Will they be able to find enough food? Will they mate if they are not confined to a small space? To ask, will they be able to fend for themselves is to ask, will they be able to meet their own needs without assistance? And most animals will care for their young for a short period of time before the youngest members of the species have to fend for themselves. But some birds have to fend for themselves shortly after hatching from their eggs. Some birds hatch with their eyes open and are able to fly out of the nest within 2 days. They are able to find their own food and build their own nest 2 days after seeing this earth for the first time. That's pretty incredible. Most other species need at least a few years before they can fend for themselves. So that is the serious way of using fend for yourself. When we use it to describe people, it's often in a light-hearted way. It is graduation time, and that normally signals the time when the younger members of our own species get ready to fend for themselves. After 18 or so years of having free laundry service, free meal preparation, free rent, the proud members of the graduating class of 2020 are going to have to learn how to fend for themselves. They'll have to learn all the settings and buttons on a typical washing machine. Perhaps they'll learn to prepare meals using something other than the microwave. No. Maybe that's asking too much. You can still fend for yourself by using only the microwave if your needs are relatively simple. If you've been married for a long time and you're used to sharing household duties with your spouse, you might joke that you'll have to fend for yourself when your spouse goes away for a few days without you. A more serious way of using the term might be in the context of a widow or a widower. A widow, by the way, is a woman whose husband has died. A widower is a man whose wife has died. You might say, with a little concern in your voice, that after a long marriage, a widow might struggle to fend for herself. Same goes for a widower. He might struggle to fend for himself. An elderly person who has always shared household duties, meal prep, bill paying, transportation, social life, household chores, that person might struggle to fend for himself or herself after the death of a spouse. The song of the week selected by JR is If the World Was Ending by J.P. Sachs and Julia Michaels. JR tells me that this is the first big hit by J.P. Sachs, but that Julia Michaels is a famous singer. She definitely has a good voice. This is an example of a duet where two singers have equal importance in the song. If the World Was Ending by J.P. Sachs and Julia Michaels. And can we agree to forgive the slight error in the song's title? I thought so. All right, you've survived yet another plain English lesson. Good for you. Remember to check out our website on Monday, June 1st, 2020. No rest for the weary, though. We'll have a new lesson out that same morning. See you then.